Good day everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be talking about the radiator and GPU placement in this case, which is the Lian O11 Dynamic Mini. Now in this video, I will be only using specific components such as the Arctic Liquid Freezer 2 280 series, which I'm actually having, the Lian Galahad 240 AIO, any graphic cards that is actually at the length of 300mm, and an ATX form factor motherboard. A shout out to some of my viewers, to Carlos, to Unifreezer, to Develux, and to Alessio. Now you've actually posted questions at my channel, and I'm going to read all your questions and they will be answered through my video. Question coming from Carlos. You're having the same AIO as I have, which is actually the Arctic Liquid Freezer 2, and you intend to actually get this case with a ATX motherboard and a RTX 3080 card. Will there be enough space for the 3080 and will the AIO crash it? From Unifreezer 1808, your question is actually, can the radiator be mounted at the back instead of the inside and to have the fan inside? And will the radiator fit at the back? Coming from Develux, you were saying that for longer graphic cards, will the 280 AIO with the fan being too thick to actually block the card from sitting on the motherboard itself? And to Alessio, you have actually asked, can you actually place the radiator tube below while having a long graphic card? Will that block it? Now all your questions will be answered in my video. Let's get to it. Before showing you if it is possible to mount a radiator using the Arctic Liquid Freezer 280mm radiator and the 240 Galahad radiator at the back over here, some of you have actually asked me what's the dimension on the hole itself, which is actually the height and the width. I'm just going to show you. Let me just zoom in for you. Now based on the measurement itself, right, from the top to bottom here, it's about 295mm tall, and the width is at 80mm in width. And for these two holes, right, as there's a stamp in between, you would like to know what's the height from the top and also the bottom. I will show you. This is actually at 145mm and this is at 140mm. Also, not forgetting that you will want to know what's the width from here to here. Let me just zoom in. So the width here measures at exactly 37, oh sorry, it's actually 36mm wide. This is actually my Arctic Liquid Freezer 2 280mm series. Now I'm not able to actually fit this at the back. Reason being, right, first, the width of this, right, is actually 37 and over here is 36. Even if you do brutal force to actually force this radiator in, right, it will scratch your radiator. Furthermore, if you were to place the hose at the bottom, though the hose is actually located quite center, you can pull through the hose itself, but it will sit over here. Having to say this, right, this will not be able to push further inside to this gap here, and leaving this the top, right, you will hit the cables over here. Let me just show you. See, imagine that the hose is actually flush over here. See, it's hitting the cables, so you might even break the cable. Now for those of you who actually want to try mounting at the top, right, sure, you can actually do it because you can actually shove this into here through brutal force. But once you have this radiator in, right, you will not be able to close your side panel. Let me just show you why. Imagine that the radiator is sit inside and it's protruding out, and this is about denting out. And having your side panel, this is actually your side panel, where you have these two fan filters, it will hit against it, as in like this will press your radiator towards in, causing indentation, and also you might scratch your radiator, so it's actually a no-go. As for top radiator mount, it's not possible for the Arctic liquid freezer 2. The reason being, right, when you place it up here, you see the screw threads, it kind of line. If you can see over here, the reason being is because of this. Let me just move this. Because of this is actually blocking the way, so you will not be able to actually mount at the top. This is the Lian Galahad 240 radiator. As you can see, I can fit this in nicely without any issues. And one thing good about this is that the width of this radiator is at 27mm, and here the gap is actually 36, so it fits in nicely with some gaps. Now, having to say so, right, you can push the hose through the hose, as the hose here is pretty centered, but I wouldn't advise you to actually place the hose at the bottom. Reason being, right, your pump will not be able to reach the CPU itself, so you will need to actually mount it with your hose facing above, or should I say position above, so that it gives you more length for the pump to reach the CPU block, sorry, the CPU. And some of you who are actually worried about the positioning, you should not be placing on the top. Well, do not worry. Reason being, right, this radiator itself, if I were to shake it, see, near my microphone, you don't hear a thing. It means to say that this radiator, the cooling solution inside, right, it's pretty compact, so there will not be any air bubbles reciting at the top and to create noise when the pump is actually regulating. Now, do take note, if you want to actually push this pump through the hose itself, make sure you remove off this bracket just to prevent scratch. As you can see, it might scratch, so remove this and you'll be easier. For the Galahad, well, you can actually fit. The screw holes are just nice, but you will encounter a problem whereby if this is actually blocking, right, you will not be able to actually put your fan, or just align the fan properly. As I see here, right, I can't align it properly. Reason being, right, this strap here, or should I see the heatsink itself, right, it's actually protruding up, so it's blocking for me to screw the screws over here. I mean the fan screw over here. Now, part of the reason that I've actually showed you the placement on the radiator itself is because I'm actually preparing my case to actually accept a long graphic card. Now, for my stand, I have no choice but to actually use back the Arctic liquid freezer 2. So what I've actually done is actually I placed the fan behind, which you can see over here, so this will give me some clearance. So I'm just going to zoom in. See, it gives me the clearance whereby I can actually slot the graphic card. So if I am to actually place the fan in front, right, okay, take a look at the graphic card itself, and if I were to place the fan together with the radiator, it's gonna block. So that's the reason why I've actually placed it behind. And you might be curious what card I'm going to fit in. This is the card that I'm going to fit in, and it just arrived while I was actually doing the explanation, so it came at the right time. At the meantime, I will actually test the length, because this card itself, right, is in fact 299 millimeter in length. So from here to the motherboard itself, right, it's 275. So I would actually test if it hits my host. I've taken out my old graphic card, which is actually a 1070 Ti Mini from Zotac, and right now I'm just going to unbox this thing here, take out the card and slot it in. My worry will be the host itself and this Type-C cable. I'm not too sure if this will actually have some obstacle to the card itself. Anyway, we'll see. Let me just open this up. Wow, this is pretty beefy, I should say. This card, this kind of thick. So let's just see if it fits. I think this is actually a 2.5 PCI slot. It's not really a 2, or maybe I should actually check the specs. Anyway, let's just try and see if this card fits. Oh, great, it fits just nice. And it's actually not touching my Type-C cable, or should I say the connector, and the hose is pretty free, as you can see here. It's not giving stress or anything. And probably I will do something to the card at the front here, probably place some holding here, or should I say support, to prevent the card from sagging. As you can feel, the card is pretty heavy. Alright guys, there you have it. I've actually shown you the radiator placement and the possibility on placing your hose, your radiator in front and with your hose below, and to actually plug a long graphic card which is about 299 millimeter in length. So if you guys like my content, do remember to subscribe and to click on the notification bell. Till the next video, take care, goodbye, see ya.